Rush Holt completely dropped the ball in Fort Monmouth. I mean, you know that. I mean, you know, Rush Holt.
What would you have done differently?
Oh, here's the funny thing. In BRAC 1, everyone knew in BRAC 1 that Fort Monmouth was close to the edge.
Right.
And that was 15 years ago. That was in the mid-90s. And in the intervening time frame between BRAC 1 and BRAC 2, nobody took any concrete steps to secure Fort Monmouth's position. And then when BRAC 2 came out and said, well, Fort Monmouth's on a chopping block, Congressman Holt, and frankly Congressman Pallone as well, said, well, you know, it's a whole BRAC process and we don't have any role in it. It's not politics, it's the Army and the Commission that does it. At the same time that our Democratic congressmen are saying that they didn't really have any power to change things, the Democratic congressman in Maryland, who's getting the jobs from Fort Monmouth, is crowing about what a great job he did to bring all those jobs to his district. So how is it possible that the Democratic congressman from New Jersey had no juice to stop it, but the Democratic congressman from Maryland had all the juice to get it? You know, something's wrong there. He completely dropped the ball. And
is those congressmen, was one of them lying? Is the guy from Maryland didn't have the juice, he got lucky, or do our guys just didn't care or dropped the ball?
I think they just didn't care or dropped the ball.
Okay.
If there's one thing, if you follow Rush Holt's career closely, he is reactive, not proactive. He will always be more than happy to write a letter after something's already happened, but he very rarely gets involved before something happens.
Do you have a couple of examples of that?
Well, Fort Monmouth, the situation with civilian housing at Earl, another big ball drop by the federal government. The Sean Goldman case, Rush Holt was completely AWOL on Sean Goldman until Congressman Smith stepped up and made an issue out of it.
Why don't you refresh it for those who don't know what the Sean Goldman case is?
Well, Sean and David Goldman are a family from Tinton Falls. The child was taken to Brazil by his mother. His mother subsequently died, and Sean's stepfather kept Sean basically captive in Brazil for years. It went on for 5 years. Sean's father's Tinton Falls. Tinton Falls is in Rush Holt's district. Tinton Falls is in the 12th. To his credit, never gave up fighting, pursued every legal activity he could to get his child back, and then pursued political activities, was getting no traction from Washington, D.C. until he got a Nightline segment, and Congressman Smith, from one district over, not his congressman, saw the Dateline segment and said, we got to do something. Within a week, Congressman Smith and David Goldman were on a plane to Brazil. It wasn't until after that fact that Rush Holt started to get involved. And even today, Congressman Smith introduced a bill in the House. I want to say it's H.R. 3240. It's in the 3,000s. It's 32 something. I think it's 3240. That bill is a child recovery act to strengthen our laws and our ability as United States citizens to go to other countries to get our children back who have been unlawfully taken. Congressman Holt hasn't even co-sponsored the bill. And Congressman Smith has drafted this bill specifically for situations like the Goldman case. Congressman Smith went to Brazil multiple times to get the Goldman child back, and Rush Holt was completely absent on that. And now we have a chance to fix the underlying problem, and Rush Holt won't even co-sponsor the bill.
And you've been planning to run against Rush, been planning it for how long?
First started talking about it late in 2008, I think.
Okay. And you've been actively working at it. You got into the race pretty early for.
Well, we did. Our theory, my theory was that Rush Holt has never had a challenger who started early and moved quickly and aggressively after him for a long time. A lot of the challengers didn't start until right around this time frame. Convention season, screening committee season. We actually started almost a year ahead of that. We filed papers. We had lined up a treasurer. We lined up campaign manager. We lined up supporters. We started going out and talking to people, and we've been doing that for almost a year now. I think the first time I spoke in public was last April about running for Congress.
Okay, and all right. And you've done a lot of, we've talked about this before, you've done a lot of research into Holt and his positions and the balls that he's dropped. And it's in the news a lot now, the things that he supports, and that he's the most liberal, was voted the most liberal member of Congress, and that the healthcare reform, and then how he wants to socialize medicine, and then cap and trade, or things that are really familiar with, people are very familiar with.
Right.
What are some of the things that you might consider radical, that might not be so much in the news, that that Holt has proposed or studied or sponsored legislation that may not have gotten anywhere yet?
Sure. Well, frankly, by any objective measure, Congressman Holt is one of the most ineffective congressmen in DC. Very few, if any, of his bills that he sponsored as either prime or as a co-sponsor have actually made it into law. He's been tilting at windmills on an election, on a voter security study or a voter security bill that just hasn't. It's just so flawed and so tragic that it can't get out of committee, and he's reintroduced it 5 or 6 cycles in a row.
What's that bill about?
Well, it's about a paper. It's about the new paperless voting machines, electronic voting machines, and having a record of a paper ballot. Unfortunately, what he's done is he's compromised it. The goal might not be a bad goal. I mean, we should have secure, non-tamper-proof ways of voting and be secure that they're not tampered. You can't be tampered with. Unfortunately, what his bill does is his bill allows the companies to keep the code proprietary. And he went in the tank. Right. Frankly, I mean, he went in the tank on it. So if you really truly believe that this is such a big problem, don't go in the tank for Diebold or whoever. Right. And he went in the tank on that. Cap and trade. This is classic Rush Holt. He was actually a reluctant vote on cap and trade. Nancy Pelosi had to twist Rush Holt's arm on cap and trade. It didn't go far enough. He felt cap and trade didn't go far enough to get government into every nook and cranny of our economy. Healthcare. He has been a sponsor or co-sponsor of a bill for single-payer national health care that's been introduced every Congress for the past 4 or 5 Congresses. He's been a sponsor of it for every Congress, and now we have the new healthcare reform again doesn't go far enough. But if you ask him, he says he would prefer nationalized single-payer healthcare. Again, it's just like, my God, no wonder he's the most liberal member of Congress. Charlie Rangel, another guy. No one, thank God today, someone finally got to him and told him to step down temporarily, but he fully supported, voted to keep supporting Charlie Rangel. Acorn funding. I mean, this past year has been one thing after another where he's flying his freak flag, and it doesn't represent the people of the 12th district.
So he's actually trying to get Acorn to get their funding back?
Oh, he voted to allow Acorn to keep their funding.
This is after the kids from
absolutely
broke the story. Okay.
Look at Israel. He's a big supporter of what basically I call peace through passivity. He's big with the J Street group. When if you follow the Israeli lobby, there's a new group called J Street, which is a much more of a rainbows and unicorns type of group that let's have peace with everybody, that is made up of Arab and Israeli people, and he's big with that, and he's turned his back on mainstream Israel, on Israel's right to continue to exist as a sovereign state. I think he's turning his back on that. He was referred to. 54 congressmen sent a letter to the White House, arguing to put pressure on Israel to lower the blockade in Gaza. And he actually has been referred to on some blogs as one of Hamas's 54 congressmen. Mm-hmm. He's Ellison, the first openly Muslim member of Congress. They're like this. So it's he's out there. He's way out there.